Hi everyone, my name is Duchess, and this is Duchess Discussions, where we talk about true crime and missing cases. And today I want to talk about the case of missing Joe Clyde Daniel out of Dickson County, Tennessee. I did pull up the Charlie Project because I wanted to know some more specific information about Joseph Clyde Daniel III, and I wanted to share that information with you now. Joseph Clyde Daniel III has been missing since April the 4th of 2018 from Dickson, Tennessee. Joe is classified as endangered and missing. He is a white male. He was born on July the 30th of 2012. He went missing when he was 5 years old. He is 4 feet tall and weighed between 50 and 60 pounds. The glass clothing that he was seen wearing was black pajamas with a picture of a skeleton on the front. Now, Joseph is autistic and nonverbal, and he also struggles with some physical tasks due to his condition. His distinguishing characteristics is that he's a Caucasian male with blonde hair and blue eyes. Joseph's nicknames are Joe and Baby Joe, and many agencies refer to him as Joe Clyde Daniels. Now, his father is Joseph Ray Daniels, and his mother is Crystal Nicole Daniels. And this is just a very, very sad case. The details of his disappearance begin when Joe was last seen at his home on Garner's Creek Road in Dickson, Tennessee on April 4th of 2018. At 6:30 a.m., his father, Joseph Ray Daniels, called 911 and said that his son was missing. He said that him and his wife went to wake Joe up for school at 5:20 in the morning and found him gone. That they searched their home and their property for over an hour before calling police. He speculated Joe had unlocked the door and wandered outside in the night. However, on April the 7th, Joseph, the father, was charged with criminal homicide in Joe's presumed death. And on April the 9th, Joe's mother, Crystal Nicole Daniels, was charged with aggravated child neglect, criminal responsibility, and filing a false report. The couple had 2 other children in the home that were aged 3 and 8, and they were sent to live with their relatives. Here we have a picture of the father. This is Joseph Daniels. Here we have a picture of Baby Joe's mother, Crystal Nicole Daniels. What a sweet kid. Apparently their marriage was on the rocks. Crystal was having an affair, which her husband knew about and was considering a divorce. Joseph also did not believe that baby Joe was his biological child, and he would call him things like that boy when speaking about him. Now, when the father was interviewed by law enforcement on videotape, he initially strongly denied having spanked or hit his son. He said that he woke up in the night and found out Joe had urinated on the floor, and he sent his son back to bed. However, about 30 minutes into questioning, Joseph admitted, quote, end quote, something happened, and said that he spanked Joe several times, and then said he saw Joe got outside and he chased him into the street. Now, the father subsequently changed his statement again and said after one of his other children told him about baby Joe urinating on the floor, the father tried to send all the children back to bed, but baby Joe started laughing. So he said, I beat him. That's when he ran out the front door. Baby Joe ran to the road. The father said he saw a car drive by and that he ran out and got him back in the house and he beat him some more. And he said, that's when I killed baby Joe. Guys, this is terrible. The father said the beating happened in the living room, but none of Joe's blood was found there, which is inconsistent with his account of what happened. He said he beat Joe over the course of 15 to 20 minutes. He said he hit his son with a closed fist several times on his head, as well as a few times on his face, and also thrown Joe onto the floor and against a coffee table. This is horrific. The father has told different stories as to what he has done with Joe's body, and at one point, he said he'd put his body in a field, and another time, he said he threw baby Joe's body off a bridge. And then he also went on to say that he put it in a pond. Now, Crystal, the mother, admitted she was present when her son was killed. She said she heard a scream, and then it went silent. And she saw Joseph standing over Joe. Joe was lying on the floor. Her husband had his fist clenched, and Joseph threatened to kill her if she told anyone what she had seen. So Crystal went back into the bedroom. She heard a car door shut. She went back out of the bedroom, and Joe was gone. Now, October of 2018 sometime, he eventually recanted that confession. And in October of 2018, while he was in custody awaiting trial for his son's presumed death, he wrote a letter to his parents telling them that he thought Joe was still alive and that Crystal had abandoned him by the roadside or giving him to another man to care for. And although Joseph's attorney argued the confession was coerced and tried to get it removed from evidence, the confession and other statements that the father Joseph had made while in custody were admitted into evidence at the murder trial. Now, Joseph's stepson, Alex Nolan, who was 8 years old at the time of Joe's disappearance, he shared a bedroom with baby Joe, and he testified at the trial. Alex said he had woken up twice during the night Joe disappeared. The first time, Joe had urinated on the floor, and Joseph beat him. Both boys went back to sleep eventually, but then Alex woke up to a loud bang, left the bedroom, and saw Joe lying on the ground. He saw Joseph pick up Joe and carry him out the back door. Joe's younger brother and aunt were in the living room at the time, and Crystal was in the kitchen. Alex said he sneaked out of the house and followed his stepfather outside. Joseph saw him, and threatened to kill him if he didn't help. Alex helped his stepfather by opening the door to a gray car. Then Joseph told him to go back inside the house. However, Alex continued watching for a few minutes and saw Joseph carrying his son down the driveway, turn right, and walk down the road. The next day, Joseph told Alex that Joe had run away. In his testimony, Alex admitted he initially told a false story to the police and said he hadn't seen anything unusual that night, saying he did this to protect his stepfather. Now, following Joseph's trial, he was found not guilty of first-degree murder, but guilty of second-degree murder, felony murder, aggravated child abuse, evidence tampering, and initiating a false report. He faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. Joe's body has never been found, and foul play is suspected in the case due to all of these circumstances that are involved. And it's really a very, very scary case. There's a couple of interesting pieces to this timeline that I was just looking over, as I'm reading through how all of this happened, into April, the grand jury that meets. Joseph Ray Daniels is indicted on these charges. 2018 arrives. He claims that his son, baby Joe, is still alive. And apparently he wrote the grandparent a letter from the father, Joseph, stating that the boy was alive and blamed the wife. And then July the 1st of 2019 comes around, and that's when we find out that there was a recorded phone call conversation revealing that Joseph Daniels told his father that Crystal Daniels killed Joe Clyde with a pillow. And Joseph Daniels claimed that Crystal Daniels threatened to kill him also. Now, on May 21st of 2020, officials obtained a search warrant and dug along the Daniels' backyard fence line at the home on Garner's Creek Road. They found 26 bones and bone fragments. TBI agent Zachary Burkhart referenced a video from April 4th of 2018 taken on the security camera of a nearby home. The video showed that no car appeared to have left the Daniels home early that morning, although lights in the background could have been a car leaving the Daniels home. Now, I can tell you that according to the most recent updates that I have looked online to find out factual information about this case, I did find a recent article out of Nashville with News Channel 5. And in this article, it states that now the father, Joseph Daniel, and I believe this article is June 13th of 2022, Joseph Daniel is asking for a new trial after being convicted of murder because he says the evidence is insufficient to convict. I feel like there's plenty of evidence and witness testimony that something happened that he is the cause of. But this, of course, is just my opinion. But I do believe that's how we got to this point in the case with Joseph Ray Daniels being charged with felony murder of his son. 7 women and 5 men convicted Joseph Daniels. And as of right now, he's serving 51 years in prison, and he will likely die behind bars. But he's fighting to have this conviction vacated, arguing that there is insufficient evidence. And it's a motion that will likely end up in the State Court of Appeals. But I'm sure he's going to ask the judge in Dickson County if he can get a new trial. The defense will probably argue that the confession was coerced and that Daniel had recanted and there was no evidence. So I really do hope that the testimony from the stepbrother will hold some weight in that. And I do believe the mother knows what happened too. And they should take her testimony into consideration as well. Now, Joe Clyde's mother, Crystal, agreed to a plea deal earlier this year to serve 15 years for aggravated child abuse, and she cannot appeal that. So she is going to be doing her time, on this case, as she should. They both, in my opinion, deserve to do the maximum penalty for the death of this beautiful child right here. Now, I did also read that back in 2022, a lawmaker proposed the Joe Clyde Daniels Act after Joe Clyde Daniels III, because he is an autistic young boy who was killed by his father. And so there is a Tennessee lawmaker that is sponsoring legislation named after Joe Clyde Daniels III. And I think that's wonderful. That's out of Knoxville, Tennessee. It says that State Senator Kerry Roberts has filed SB 2223, otherwise known as the Joe Clyde Daniels Act. The bill would require the Board of Parole to consider as a factor the extent to which the offender obstructed or continues to obstruct the ability of law enforcement to recover the remains of the victim. The considerations would be applied to persons convicted of homicide seeking parole. If passed, the law would go into effect July the 1st of 2022. That went into effect, according to this, in July of 2022. So basically, that means that the Joe Clyde Daniels Act would bring harsher punishments for hiding a body, as it should. It's terrible that you have to pass a bill to make that type of thing happen. But State Representative Michael Chirico of Dickson County wanted to make sure that Joe Clyde's father is never eligible for parole unless he tells investigators the location of his son's body. He says that parole needs to be reserved for people who can someday be redeemed with a lot of work. He doesn't think that's what's happened in Joe Clyde Daniels' case. They believe this passes constitutional muster because parole is a privilege and not a right. And I do hope that this will bring about some sort of change in response to this very tragic case, because baby Joe did not deserve to lose his life in such a way at the hands of his own father. This case is very, very tragic and heartbreaking. And the fact that nobody will say where he's located is very, very concerning. But again, that verdict was 2 years ago, and Joseph Daniel is serving life for the murder of his 5-year-old son, Joe Clyde. It's been a very high-profile case, and it still remains open because his body has not been found. Now, we are awaiting to find out what the state appellate court will do in asking for this new trial. But until then, he will continue to serve 51 years in prison. And I do hope that they will continue to hold Joseph Ray Daniels accountable, and Crystal Daniels accountable for taking this young boy's life. This has to stop. If you have a case that you want me to cover and talk about, just send me an email at duchessforthemissing@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on Facebook Messenger and let me know, and I'm happy to cover a case. So thanks for tuning in to hear the story of what happened to Joe Clyde Daniel, and we do hope that the state legislation will refuse his appeal for a new trial, and that he will continue to serve out his time for what has been done, which has taken the life of a young 5-year-old autistic boy, Precious Joe Clyde Daniels. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time when we talk about some missing cold cases here on Duchess Discussions. Take care, everyone. Be kind.